Okay, welcome everybody. I am Jeremy Veldman. Happy April Fool's Day 2026. And we are about to witness possibly history as we get ready for the launch of Artemis II, the first manned mission to return human beings to the moon in over 53 years. Now, this will not be a lunar landing mission. Just want to clarify this. This is a lunar flyby, but it is still significant from the standpoint of returning humans to lunar gravity and outside of low Earth orbit for the first time in over half a century. And the launch is, as of right now, 4:56 p.m. Central Time, April 1, 2026. Still 80% chance of a go. So we are still on track here for the possibility, very good possibility of a launch attempt here. So we're getting pretty excited. And once again, I'm joined by my buddy, former NASA flight controller during the Apollo era, Apollo 7 through Apollo 13, 1968 to 1970, Mr. Bill Weppner. How you doing today, Bill?
I'm doing very well, and like you, I'm getting excited myself.
Excellent. Well, we are on the cusp, possibly, of history here with the launch of Artemis II, and we've been covering these Artemis launches, of course, since this program began several years ago. We saw the couple of scrubs with Artemis 1, and then the eventual launch, and then the splashdown, and then the rollout of Artemis 2. So it's kind of exciting to see this transpire and start to take place. And yeah, I've never experienced this in my lifetime, a lunar mission. You've seen several of these. What are your general thoughts as we get ready for the launch?
Well, I was just thinking, where was I and what was I like on some of the launches? I was on a console looking at data. And so you don't really see the launch. You just make sure that the data is, the telemetry downlink is accurate, and all the systems that I was responsible for were performing correctly. This is different. I'm not connected in any way with the spacecraft or the mission, but I'm sure I'm connected as a human watching 4 more humans being launched into space. And this is the first time we've ever launched 4. And that rocket is the largest we've ever launched on. So this is exciting. There's a lot of firsts with this mission.
Yeah, a lot of firsts. So this mission will take human beings out of low Earth orbit for the first time in over 50 years, take them on a slingshot around the moon, give them the opportunity to do a full test of the Orion spacecraft and all of the life support systems on board. It'll be the first time in, I guess, what we call the modern era, with all of the smartphones, social media, and high resolution imaging technology to take up close images of the moon, and really kind of launch a new era for a new generation. So this will be interesting. Now, launches can be very tenuous. It does look like things right now are on track as we enter into the launch window here. It's 4:58 p.m. Central Time, almost 5 o'clock Central Time, and the launch window officially opens at 5:24 p.m. Central Time. So can you explain to me what happens during the launch window? We've got a two-hour launch window from 5:24 to 7:24, where there's a possibility of a launch. So how does the launch window work?
Well, the launch window is pretty much dependent upon where the 2 bodies are, the Earth and the Moon, because we want to intersect with the Moon at a particular time and a particular phase of the Moon. So we'll be launching, I think today, you mentioned earlier that the Moon will be full today. Now, when we get to there, probably in about 6 days, will be on the 3rd quarter. But we're going around behind the Moon, and we're very, very interested in that part of the Moon that we hadn't been interested in before, not to this extent. Yep. And we want to photograph and document craters that we've seen with telescopes, but now we're going to see the entire lunar surface from that angle. And so it all depends upon the lighting on the Moon, which will dictate how long this window will be, and and how long the window lasts. Now, if this mission for some reason or other does not go today and it goes tomorrow, we would have a different launch time, possibly a different launch window length, and it would probably be essentially the same mission, but some of these dimensions would change a little bit because the Earth and the Moon are at different positions in the solar system in 24 hours. Yep. And likewise, if we slip to Friday, it's the same thing.
Yep. Appreciate people joining us. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to just type them in the chat, whether you're watching this on YouTube or on Facebook. Hello, Joanne. Good to see you again.
Hi, Joanne.
What shirt is that? What shirt are you wearing, Bill? The Artemis shirt.
Oh.
Is that your Artemis 1 shirt? Oh, that's your official Artemis shirt. Love it. Excellent. So, Bill, you've been here before, and we talked about this before in comparing this mission to, Apollo 8, where they went around the moon and then came back, or Apollo 13, maybe a better example. You talk a little bit about the comparisons from both of those missions for the one that we're about to see with Artemis.
Well, do we have that slide of the trajectory for Artemis II?
Yeah, we can get that up here. Let me see if I can find it. I know we talk about this as we're getting ready here. There we go.
All right. So I might ask you to zoom in a little bit. I can do it on my computer, but it's just for myself to see. So this trajectory will essentially be a very large figure 8. We'll go into a couple of different size trajectory in low Earth orbit. But when we finally do trans-lunar injection and are on our way to the moon, then we're on what's called the free return path. You mentioned that earlier. And if we do nothing else to the spacecraft, it'll go around, be captured by the gravity of the moon and pick up enough speed to slingshot around the moon and come back. And that is essentially the trajectory followed by Apollo 13 when we had the emergency. We did one minor burn to accelerate or speed up the time, or let me rephrase that, to lessen the time that it took to get us back. So we did that additional burn, but we used this free return trajectory. On the other hand, with Apollo 8, Apollo 8 was the second manned mission. And on that, we instead of going around behind the moon, yes, we got behind the moon, but we went into lunar orbit. So we had a large engine on board in the service module, which slowed us down enough to go into orbit around the moon. And we were in orbit around the moon for about a day. And then we used that same engine to speed up and take us out of that lunar orbit. And I remember I was in charge of the systems on that engine. And by golly, it had to work, and it did flawlessly. But those are two main differences. We were essentially using the same trajectory as you see there for Apollo, or rather Artemis II. But in the case of Apollo 8, we went further and we took it out of that free return path, put it into orbit, and then brought us back on a free return path. Apollo 13, we used the free return path to an advantage. That's what got us home and probably saved the crew.
Yeah. So in some ways, Artemis is more analogous. Artemis 2, in terms of its trajectory, is more analogous to Apollo 13 than it would be to Apollo 8.
Yes.
Apollo 8 was orbital, correct? He slowed down and he orbited the moon.
Yes.
And then came back around and then back toward Earth. This one is just a free return trajectory, slingshot around the moon, and then come back. So essentially, it's a test flight around the moon. Artemis 2.
Well, yes, but I mean, they've got a lot of objectives on that backside of the moon, because one of the things they're talking about is they want to establish a lot of increase their knowledge of the poles, because they think there might be some semblance of water or its embryonic characteristics. So we don't know anything about that portion of the moon. So this is our first step to examine that much more closely.
Right. And yeah, set up future missions, whether it's obviously a lunar lander mission at some point in time. And if you follow the coverage on NASA, they're talking about building a base and having a more extended presence on the surface of the moon, and possibly using any water that they can find in the South Pole region as a resource, whether it's for drinking water or possibly fuel. So
it's exactly, and then ultimately use the moon as a gateway and a launch pad, if you will, to go to Mars.
Correct.
It's certainly not going to occur in my lifetime. I don't know if it's going to occur in the lifetime of anybody's alive yet, but that's the long range goal.
Right. So it's a mission of exploration. The objectives of this mission are different, and the program is different in terms of its goal, its focus, and its eventual outcomes. So
that's the scientific way to put it. The emotional way to put it is we're going back.
Exactly. We're going back. First time in over 50 years. So it's kind of a surreal moment. It's exciting, and it's a bit surreal at the same time. But as of right now, we do appear to be on path, on a track here to go for launch. Of course, anything can happen, and we're just watching some coverage from some different sources here as we prepare the countdown.
Jeremy, eventually, when they establish when that countdown will occur, there will be a little inset with a sign showing, the clock counting down. I don't see anything that looks like that now, but maybe they haven't established exactly when launch would occur.
Yeah. Well, I know the launch window opens in, let's see, it's about 20 minutes or so, a little less, 17 minutes. So let me see if we can find a countdown timer that will show.
What we're looking at right here is the relative height of that Saturn launch system, and they're comparing it to the shuttle and then the Statue of Liberty. For those of us closer to the Memphis area, it's probably a little taller than Clark Tower.
Right. In fact, I was there about a week or two ago. You never look at the Clark Tower quite the same way again.
I know.
The Saturn V rocket. So pretty interesting. So yeah, we are. I'm actually looking for a better coverage here where we can have a countdown timer and not so many interruptions. But for now, let me actually go back to the, hang on one sec. I'll grab this back up. So yes, the vehicle that's going to take the astronauts back into lunar orbit is the Space Launch System. And this is the most powerful rocket that NASA has ever built. You can see in comparison here in terms of size to the Saturn V, the Space Shuttle, Statue of Liberty, but then also the power that this rocket has, 8.8 million pounds of thrust in comparison to 7.5 million for the Saturn V rocket.
Well, if we take a minute and compare it to the Saturn V launch vehicle that was used on Apollo, all the Apollo missions with the exception of Apollo 7, this is about the same size and so on, but the Saturn V didn't have those two solid boosters strapped to it. This one does, and that's where we get that enormous additional thrust over what we had for the Saturn V.
Right. So we can see coverage here as we're getting closer.
Of course, all the fuels are at cryogenic temperatures. They're, sub-zero. So that's that exhaust that you're seeing there, just leaking. That's normal.
So in terms of preparation, it's been a day of preparation, several stages along the way. And, we saw the astronauts get strapped in earlier, and then their spacesuits pressurized. I mean, there's a very specific routine for power up, and then for the crew, and then eventually for the launch. So this has been going on now for several hours, and we are counting down now Um, the launch timer is showing about 14 minutes until the launch window opens, but that
And
doesn't
see that we're still talking about the launch window.
right. Not necessarily the actual launch itself.
Jeremy, I just had a thought. They may not actually divulge when the launch would actually occur until we get to the until another 13 and a half minutes when the launch wasn't opens, and then they will establish some launch time.
Right.
That's just my guess.
So we may just have to wait until the launch window opens to actually find out when they have a specific time. So,
well, we're on the right slide. We're on the right channel with the NASA channel. So,
yeah. In fact, well, I'm going to put the audio on here and see what they're saying. I know this being covered everywhere.
We have a clear board.
The Weather Channel, of course, is covering this. PBS is an all-day
but we need confirmation from
coverage of this
individual.
Oh, this is big.
On the,
this is big.
On the NASA test director team. So we'll hear him poll his team. The other poll that we're waiting for is the poll from Launch Director Charlie Blackwell Thompson.
So we're getting ready for the polling.
Take that final status from NASA management before giving the.
Oh, I'd love to hear that.
Out of a hold.
Yeah.
And you're seeing the clock count down at L minus 12 minutes.
CCL, Sierra, and RS1.
CCL.
Yes, sir. Reconfigure ARS primary loop ISO valves.
Copy, that's in work.
And CDR, OTC, Iran, RS1.
Go.
ARS loop ISO valves are being closed at this time.
Integrity copies.
NGDLP.
Go.
Yes, I had a discussion with sea ice and with MER manager regarding the observation the sea ice had a few minutes ago. They were able to confirm with BCI photos that the condition that they observed has been there since 2025. MER manager has had a chance to review the findings, and they do not have any constraints from either a sea ice or MER manager perspective.
Okay. Copy all. And Launch Director, NTD, you copy?
Yes, sir. I copy. That's good news.
OTC, CCL 212.
OTC.
ARS primary loop isolation valve configuration is complete.
Copy.
And CGLS NTD, cancel pending, please.
CLS copies, and that's complete.
All right, and for all personnel, we got a little bit more work to do before we pick up the clock, and we're about a little over a minute from getting to T-minus 10 minutes, but we've canceled the resume time there, and then we'll pick it up after we get through all of our work and anything else that we need to do to get through the remainder of the count. So we'll continue working that to get to our T0 today. So when we get to about 50 seconds from now, we'll extend that hold.
CVSE OTC.
CVSE.
400, 290, looking to verify that we are configured for ascent. Yep, give me about 2 more minutes. I'm going to start CMA2 streaming. Copy.
NTD, COSE, hold requested.
Copy that.
I have an LCC violation of O-CT-004, S-band transponder anomaly. This was a transient LCC violation, so transponder 1 had a demodulated SNR estimate that went down to 2 dBm when it should have been between 10 and 13. It is now back up to 12, but we did lose that for just a moment. It does not appear that we lost our bit sync or carrier lock, which would be indicative that we lost our lock with the vehicle. So at this point, recommendation would still be go. However, we do have a pre-planned contingency procedure if we want to look at that. But again, this is transient, so we're back in a nominal range.
All right, let's see, LPE NTD.
Yeah, we're not seeing that hit. So I guess question for COSE, was that less than
T-minus 10 minutes.
Is that below our persistence?
Yes, but we're in a hold now.
Look like it did persist for several seconds on mine, but let me take a look at the number of samples.
Could I get a repeat on the affected LCC, please?
Yes, ma'am.
On the other hand, it's 10 minutes till
004.
the opening of the window.
Thank you.
That's correct. 5:15 Central Time right now, 6:15 Eastern Time. Of course, you're looking live. NASA feed, Cape Kennedy, Launch Complex 39B, which is where Artemis II is going to lift off. April 1, 2026. And the start of the launch window should be about 10 minutes away.
And there was that conversation between the launch director and a gentleman where they're going to do some checking. So we're in a hold. And I suspect when that clock starts to count down,
does report
it'll
that
be
they
counting
also
down
lost
to
lock for about
liftoff.
5 seconds. So I would love to ask KUS and see if they also lost lock with the vehicle for any extended amount of period.
And COSE, while we're doing that, these are 1/10 hertz measurements, correct? So we would have had to lose it for over 10 seconds to get a second sample?
Yes, sir, that's correct. It is 1/10 hertz.
Yeah, so from our perspective, the allowance is effectively up to 30 seconds, up to 3 samples based on the 1/10 hertz. This is not an LCC violation, I believe.
Yes, sir, I would agree with that at this point. Copy that.
We're checking with KUS on 232. I don't think they have 212 access. We're trying to verify, but
Any idea what they're checking?
it sounds like they have a loss of lock as well. About 2 seconds. Okay. And I guess for both KUS and COSE, do we have lock now?
That's affirmed. We do have lock for COSE.
Yeah, so from the integration console perspective, we did have a temporary loss there within the allowable, and per the requirement, let's go.
And this is Houston Flight. We have lock and we have good telemetry here in GSE.
And KUS is reported to they have good lock now. So with all of that, OSC, then are we in a go configuration per your LCC?
Yes, sir. Recommendation would be go.
Right. LP, you concur with that? Yes, sir. LP concurs go. And launch director?
Yes, sir. Launch director concurs go.
All right, and I'm going to go ahead and just verify everybody has everything else complete, launch director, and if we do, we'll be ready to pick up the poll at that time, unless there's something else that you're aware of.
No, sir. Let's verify all our work is complete, and I would like one last check of our constraints list.
All right, let's see. OTC, are you still waiting for config, or are you?
That is affirmed, sir.
Okay, yeah, you only open item?
Think safety. Think Granger. For trusted products to lock, anchor,
Copy. Okay, so OTC, you're complete with all of your work?
That's affirmed.
All right, copy that. STC?
STC is complete.
And GTC?
GTC is complete.
Okay, excellent.
Sounds like we're a go.
LPE, just want to verify we have no open constraints at this time.
So far.
No open constraints. We have a clear board, sir. Okay, tracking the same here. And launch director, with that, we are clear and ready to pick up the launch readiness poll with your go.
All right, sir. I am go for the poll.
All right. And for all personnel, this is the NTD conducting the Artemis II launch readiness check. Verify ready to resume count and go for launch. OTC.
TC is go.
STC.
STC is go.
GTC.
C's go.
MCO.
TO's go.
Safety console.
The safety console is go.
LPE. LPE's go. RTD.
RTD's go.
Houston Flight.
Houston Flight is go.
ROC.
Rock is go.
And CDR.
Cruise go.
Copy that. Thank you, Reed. And launch director, NTD, our launch team is ready to proceed at this time.
All right, NTD, I copy all. At this time, I'll perform my poll. Attention on the net. This is the launch director performing the final poll for launch, verifying no constraints, and go for launch. EGS, Program Chief Engineer.
Artemis Chief Engineers are go.
Copy, thank you. EGS, Chief Safety Officer.
The Artemis CSOs are go.
Copy, thank you. Range weather.
Launch weather is go.
Thank you, LWO. And Artemis MMT Chair.
MMTs go.
Thank you, John. And Integrity Launch Director.
Good air voice, Charlie. PLT.
Thank you, Charlie. This is Victor. We are going for our families.
MS1.
Well,
This is Christina. We are going for our teammates.
MS2. This is Jeremy. We are going for all humanity. All right, Charlie, your Artemis II crew is go for launch. Full send.
I copy that. Reed, Victor, Christina, and Jeremy. On this historic mission, you take with you the heart of this Artemis team, the daring spirit of the American people and our partners across the globe, and the hopes and dreams of a new generation. Good luck. Godspeed, Artemis II. Let's go.
we're a go.
And into the Launch Director.
Go ahead, Launch Director.
Yes, sir. You have a go to proceed with countdown.
Copy that. I'll put it in work. CDR NTD.
Go.
Gear risers and initiate short purge per your EPROC 10.1.1, steps 8 and 9.
10.1.1, 8, 9 going to work.
Copy. CVSE NTD. Start and verify recordings of our Orion cameras.
Copy.
Okay. Well, there you heard it.
RSR NTD.
RSR.
I'm going to switch to the
Getting ready to
NASA
start
channel.
terminal
One
count.
one second here,
Enable
Bill.
at this time, please.
Get a
T minus 10 minutes.
a better feed.
Once we wrap up this last bit of work,
SNA arm rotation enable complete.
we're going to start that clock.
Copy that. Thank you.
Integrity crew, close and lock visors.
You heard an issue, worked in real time with telemetry lock on the Orion. It was transitory. It was very short. They checked the data, confirmed that they had a good lock. This was with the S-band transmitter on the Orion. Worked through that issue, looked at the data, and cleared it. All with the world watching. Impressive work by the launch team. So we have a 2-hour window, which starts in just a few minutes at 6:24 p.m. Eastern Time and goes until 8:24 p.m. Eastern Time.
And ECL NTD will be waiting for your verification on the short purge.
ECL copies.
And for all personnel, once we get that short purge verification, we'll verify that we are clear to go, and then we'll proceed with the terminal count.
Okay, so we are a go for launch. It sounds like the window opens in officially 1 minute. We have a 2-hour window. We just need to know when the countdown is going to begin.
ECL time estimate.
About a minute.
Copy.
Jeremy, with your permission, I'm going to take my laptop into the other room and watch this launch on my larger
Going into the
screen
launch
TV.
window,
Okay,
but
I'm going
not
to go
by
full
much, it
screen
looks
here.
like.
Well, I mean, I got a 49-inch TV I'm going to look at.
Let me get it back.
Unless you want to, talk about anything else, but I think everybody's,
We are a go for launch.
yeah. And when that clerk starts counting,
So at this
well,
stage,
that might be it in the upper left.
no, that's a slide. Let me get it back.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to remove. Let me do this. I'm going to remove this, and then I'm going to share this. Yeah, let me share this one. Okay, here we go.
3, 2, 1, mark. GLS mainline has.
Okay, we are now in the countdown. It looks like.
Yeah.
We are in the 10-minute countdown.
All right, I'm gonna
begins terminal count. Our new
So I'm going to put it to full screen.
6:35 p.m.
And you are looking
Eastern
live.
Time.
This 5:25 p.m.
6:35
Central Time,
Eastern
6:25
We are
p.m.
now counting down to liftoff of Artemis II.
We are now within 10 minutes of liftoff.
From now on, you're going to hear two voices on the loops. If everything goes nominally, NASA Test Director Jeff Spaulding, who's directly managing the launch team, and Alex Bendelos, the GLS operator who closely monitors the software. He has the ability to stop and restart the countdown.
Are you watching on the big screen, Bill?
Yeah, I've got my big screen muted, so I'm with you.
Our new T0
Excellent.
is 22, 35, 12.
So we're looking at a live feed from NASA.
22, 35, 12.
Affirm.
It is 5:26 p.m. Central Time.
T0, 6:35 and 12 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. Again, our T0 is 6:35 and 12 seconds p.m. Eastern Time.
Oh, God.
But as I was saying, there's no launch button. This is autonomous. But there is a button that keeps you.
My first one.
And
You've
that
seen this
button
before.
allows the GLS operator to pause the countdown outside of terminal count and during terminal count and submit a hold to the next holding point. So the clock won't stop right away. If there's an issue, we'll go to the next stable holding point. This is how GLS configures the rocket and ground systems to a stable point where they can stop the countdown if that's needed. But right now, we are counting down. Our next big milestone, looking to retract the crew access arm.
GLS is go for crew access arm retract.
And there you see the crew access arm moving away.
Wow.
That's the path that the astronauts took to ingress into the rocket. Until this point, that was their way off the pad if they needed to evacuate. But now with that arm retracting, the backup transitions to a launch abort system. And they'll begin arming that shortly. Of course, the launch abort system, great shot there of the crew access arm retracting away. The launch abort system is the tower at the top, and that's what would pull Orion and its crew off the top of the rocket in case of an emergency, whether it's on the ground or in flight. This is critical safety hardware that protects the lives of the astronauts.
Bill, final thoughts as we're 6 minutes away.
Starting at T-minus 6 minutes, the GLS will start bringing that and other high energy systems online, starting with core stage pressurization.
Godspeed, Artemis II.
Space flight is risky. We are go for launch. Artemis II.
Weather is 90% go. The range is go. All systems are go.
You could hear a pin drop.
GLS is go for core stage tank pressurization.
I'm anxious.
That means the replenish valve for the liquid hydrogen tank has now closed, and that tank is beginning to pressurize to flight levels because that hydrogen is naturally boiling inside the tank. We'll get the liquid oxygen tank a little later in the count. Now the team is waiting for verification that, if needed, the Artemis II crew could use the launch abort system to pull Orion safely off the top of the rocket in an emergency. Let's listen in for that call.
GLS verifies last capability available.
And CDR, do you copy?
CDR copies, last available.
That's great news, and you heard the NTD verify that with the commander of the mission.
GLS is go for FTS arm.
Now work is being done to arm the flight termination system. This is so the range safety can send a flight termination command if the rocket flies too far off track. There's a brief built-in delay, so the launch abort system has time to pull the astronauts to safety first.
LH2 high flow bleed check.
All right, the high flow bleed check. That's so the cryo team gets verification that the RS-25 engines, all 4 of them, are in the proper temperature range for launch.
GLS is go for core stage APU start.
Core stage APUs start. Those are auxiliary power units. High-speed turbines, which provide pressure to hydraulic pumps that steer the RS-25 engines. We're going to see a gimbal test a little later at T-minus 2 minutes and 30 seconds. This is what allows that to happen. Coming up in about 20 seconds, we're listening for go for purge sequence 4. That's a helium purge of the 4 core stage engines downstream of the propellant valve. This gets all the air and moisture out of there.
GLS is go for purge sequence 4.
Moving through the milestones. All is looking good. Coming up in just a few seconds, we're going to get that thrust vector control actuator test. This is a gimbaling of the engines. There are the 4 RS-25s, 3 of them.
There they are.
Heritage, 1 of them built from shuttle parts. And there you see them moving.
We see them moving.
Amazing.
First time in over 53 years.
Moving the power from both the upper stage and the lower stage of the rocket to internal, taking ground power away and now going to battery power.
GLS is go for upper stage to internal power.
Our power is removed from the rocket's upper stage, the ICPS, and it's been switched to battery. Same milestone for the lower core stage coming up at T-minus 1 minute and 30 seconds. Right now, the 4-person Artemis II crew is 248,000 miles away from the moon. And if all goes well, they will fly by it in 6 days.
GLS is go for core stage to internal power.
All right, there's the rocket's core stage, which houses 3 flight computers. It's now on its own power.
All right, there's the rocket's core stage, which houses
hold
3
time
flight
because there's no more
computers.
margin
Now
on
its
these
own
batteries.
power.
So we'd have to recycle back to T-minus 10 to recharge if we had
There's
a
no more
hold.
hold time because there's no more margin on these batteries. So we'd have to recycle back to T-minus 10 to recharge if we had a hold.
1 minute.
Right now, the rocket does not know what the T0 is, but coming up at T-minus 33 seconds, control shifts from the ground launch sequencer to the rocket's
Right now, the rocket does not know what the T0 is, but coming up at T-minus 33 seconds, control shifts from the ground launch sequencer to the rocket's onboard autonomous launch sequencer, or ALS. The rocket will count itself down, but honor any holds that could come from the ground. Now, shortly after liftoff, Houston will take control of the rocket, and my colleague Gary Jordan will take over commentary.
Brave explorers ready to ride the most powerful
ALS,
rocket.
go for ALS. Great call out. The rocket is on its own. 4 brave explorers ready to ride the most powerful rocket
Sound suppression water is flowing.
NASA has ever launched.
Here we go. 10, 9.
Sound suppression water is flowing.
7,
RS-25 engines.
And here we go.
Go.
4,
10,
3,
9,
1.
8,
Booster
7,
ignition.
RS-25
And
engines.
The crew of
4,
Artemis II
3,
now bound for
2,
the moon.
1.
Humanity's next
Booster
great
ignition.
voyage begins.
And liftoff. The crew of Artemis II now bound for the moon. Humanity's next great voyage begins.
Roger, roll pitch.
Houston, now
Good roll pitch.
integrity on the Artemis II mission.
Roger, roll pitch.
Houston, now enjoy the flight of integrity of the Artemis II mission around the moon.
On time, passing 30 seconds.
Integrity AM time.
Target milestone. Mission control Houston C. Good performance.
On time, passing 30 seconds.
Space Launch System core stage.
Integrity passes the ultimate
3 miles.
target milestone. Mission control Houston C. Good performance. 1200 miles. Space Launch System core stage. Integrity 3 miles in altitude. Traveling more than 1,200 miles per hour.
Mission elapsed time, passing 1 minute. Approaching max Q.
On, possibly on.
Mission elapsed time, passing 1 minute. Approaching max Q.
On, possibly on.
Communication signal transfer. Integrity and its crew supersonic. 90 seconds into the Artemis II mission.
Communication signal transfer confirmed as integrity and its crew supersonic.
2,600 miles.
Approaching 90 seconds into the Artemis II mission. Integrity is 14 miles in altitude, 8 miles downrange, traveling more than 2,600 miles per hour.
One minute 50 seconds of mission elapsed time. Standing by for main engine throttle down to 85%. Ahead of solid rocket booster separation.
1 minute 50 seconds of mission elapsed time. Standing by for main engine throttle down to 85%. Ahead of solid rocket booster separation. Expected at the 2 minute 9 second mark.
Confirmed
See
separation.
throttle down.
Main engine's throttling up. Guidance converged.
Confirmed separation. Main engine's throttling up. Guidance converged.
Integrity, guidance converged, performance nominal, upper stage RCS ready. Integrity, guidance converged, performance nominal, upper stage RCS ready. Integrity, SM priming complete. Copy all, stand. SM priming complete. Integrity, SM priming complete.
Time into the Artemis II mission. Thrusters on
SM priming complete.
and upper stage confirmed in a ready state. Ahead of service.
2 minutes 45 seconds of mission elapsed time into the Artemis II mission. Thrusters on integrity and upper stage confirmed in a ready state. Ahead of service module fairing separation.
49 miles in altitude, 78 miles downrange. Now passing 5,000 miles per hour.
3 minutes into the flight. Integrity 49 miles in altitude, 78 miles downrange. Now passing 5,000 miles per hour.
Standing by for launch board system jettison.
Houston integrity, good last jettison, great.
Standing by for launch board system jettison.
Copy jettison, Team Eco 8.
Houston integrity, good last jettison, great view.
Copy jettison, Team Eco 8+02. Houston has you loud and clear on Teeters at the Carmen line.
We see you sail on board, Stan.
And Houston has you loud and clear on Teeters at the Carmen line.
3 minutes 50 seconds into the flight of Artemis II. Wiseman, Glover,
Outstanding, Stan. We have the same.
entry to space with good comm checks. GPS signals.
3 minutes 50 seconds into the flight of Artemis II. Wiseman, Glover, Cook, and Hansen cross the boundary to space with good comm checks. GPS signals acquired after last jettison now working on internal checks to verify accuracy. Flight Dynamics Officer analyzed the time of main engine cutoff, confirmed at 8 minutes 2 seconds, time of MECO.
Integrity, GPS processing. Integrity, GPS processing. we're headed right at it.
Stan, we see the same, and we have a beautiful moonrise. We're heading right at it.
Flight Commander Reed Wiseman confirms he has visuals of his destination. GPS guidance, navigation, and control software.
Approaching 5 minutes into the flight, Commander Reed Wiseman confirms he has visuals of his destination. GPS guidance, navigation, and control software finishes internal checks and sends to navigation channels.
3 engine press.
10:30, 3 engine press.
Time now passing 5 minutes 20 seconds of mission elapsed time into the Artemis II mission.
3 engine press.
3 good main engines are all that's needed to carry into.
On time now passing 5 minutes 20 seconds of mission elapsed time into the Artemis II mission. At this point, 3 good main engines are all that's needed to carry integrity to a nominal main engine cutoff target. Though at this time we're saying 4 good engines here in Mission Control Houston. Integrity 75 miles in altitude, 330 miles downrange, approaching 10,000 miles per hour.
Integrity looking good at 6 minutes.
Integrity looking good at 6 minutes.
Good trajectory and engine performance. Booster officer
Stay on board,
to
Stan.
report the shutdown plan to Flight Director Judd Freeling expected.
Good trajectory and engine performance. Booster officer will soon report the shutdown plan to Flight Director Judd Freeling expected at the 7-minute mark.
Expect nominal shutdown.
Integrity 78 miles in altitude, 460 miles downrange.
Expect nominal shutdown.
6 minutes 40 seconds of mission elapsed time. Shutdown plan is as expected. Again, the time of MECO was confirmed at
6 minutes 40 seconds of mission elapsed time. Shutdown plan is as expected. Again, the time of MECO was confirmed at 8 minutes 2 seconds into the flight.
.7 minutes of mission elapsed time. Throttling down.
7 minutes of mission elapsed time.
Milestone at the 7-minute 30-second mark.
Throttling down as we approach the abort once around option. Milestone at the 7-minute 30-second mark.
1,000 miles per hour.
Now 84 miles in altitude at 650 miles downrange, traveling more than 15,000 miles per hour.
Integrity
It was now open for an abort once around option that would target splashdown in the Pacific following nominal ascent at this time.
The window is now open for an abort once around option that would target splashdown in the Pacific Ocean, still following nominal ascent at this time.
About 10 seconds remaining until the main engine cutoff of the Space Launch System core stage. Standing by for confirmation of MECO.
About 10 seconds remaining until the main engine cutoff of the Space Launch System core stage. Standing by for confirmation of MECO and core stage separation.
Integrity and nominal MECO core stage separated.
Integrity and nominal MECO core stage separated. We see the same on board, Stan.
8 minutes 40 seconds into the flight, we have a nominal main engine cutoff heading in the right trajectory on the way to swing around the moon.
8 minutes 40 seconds into the flight, we have a nominal main engine cutoff heading in the right trajectory on the way to swing around the moon. Core stage has separated, done its job. The Space Launch System upper stage, the interim cryogenic propulsion stage, or ICPS, still attached to the Orion spacecraft.
Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Cook, and Jeremy Hansen now in orbit around the Earth. At the beginning of
9 minutes of mission elapsed time. Integrity crew of Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Cook, and Jeremy Hansen now in orbit around the Earth at the beginning of their journey to the moon.
Integrity Houston looking ahead to PRM numbers so far per the pad.
Integrity Houston looking ahead to PRM numbers so far per the pad.
Capcom Stan Loves
Stand numbers for the pad.
now reminding the crew that the perigee raise maneuver time of ignition is as
Capcom Stan Loves
prior to booster ignition.
Now reminding the crew that the perigee raise maneuver. Time of ignition is as expected prior to booster ignition. That time being 49 minutes, 50 seconds of mission elapsed time.
There it is, the launch of Artemis II. Jeff Velosin, tell us what we're seeing now. What were your impressions?
We're seeing like perfect space flight, well practiced, well rehearsed, professionally done, and almost amazingly just right off almost on the exact time. So I think that's what we always dream of when we launch into space. But with a gazillion parts that could go wrong at any given moment, it hardly ever happens. And whether that doesn't cooperate, so just amazing. And just, it's almost, we were talking about, it's almost hard to believe we're sitting here watching that really happening and that humans are really on their way to the moon.
It's just absolutely remarkable, amazing, really quite something to see. And I am nervous at every single stage, but it went off flawlessly, which is it's just so exciting to see. And I can imagine.
Well, what do you think, Jeremy?
So we've had a successful launch of Artemis
Passing
II.
11 minutes of mission elapsed
We're
time.
witnessing history.
Here, overhearing the conversation between Captain
And it looks like we are now almost
already passing some milestones.
12 minutes into the launch. We've had MECO, main engine cutoff,
confirmed.
And they will deploy the solar array
The
soon.
visors are confirmed up
And then
now
the
past
Orion
dynamic
space
phase of
capsule,
flight that is
along with the
ascent.
service module, and the IC,
Their launch and entry suits.
The second stage, the third stage, will
provided them
begin
an extra layer of
to burn
protection.
into lunar orbit
As needed, they're
or
going
to
to
Earth
raise those
orbit.
visors.
So
If you
we
wanted to,
witnessed
you could bring up
successful
that
launch.
slide,
Later
but
in today's mission, they will begin to egress or get out of the suits to begin some of their initial tasks of
the main
activating
character of this
systems.
show has already sung. I'm wondering if, we ought to ask for any questions, and otherwise, if you want to extend this, we can, but
What are your thoughts? What are your impressions as you witness this launch for the first time in over 50 years? We've seen shuttle launches. We've seen Skylab launches. We've seen several launches to the ISS and low Earth orbit. And of course, we watched the launch of the James Webb Space Telescope, another historic moment a few years ago. But to see a crewed mission go into deep space for the first time in my lifetime, over 53 years, is really historic and surreal. So it's one of those moments where...
And a perfect launch. I mean, not a second delay.
Not a second delayed. I was not expecting this, quite frankly. I thought we'd have a scrub or two before we were ready to go. We had one delay from February and into March and into early April. But here we are, April 1, 2026, 5:48 p.m. Central Time. And we've had a successful launch. And the crew is now beginning their maneuver into a high elliptical orbit. They'll do testing around the Earth for about a day and then do a translunar injection burn, I would guess sometime late tomorrow afternoon, as they begin a free return trajectory to the moon. So this is a start of a 10-day journey that's going to take us until roughly April the 10th. And we will see splashdown, hopefully, off the west coast of the United States in about 10 days with the return of these 4 astronauts after a successful mission. So I'm kind of speechless, and then at the same time, just kind of processing my thoughts and my emotions. Again, to see a lunar mission for the first time in my lifetime. You grow up reading about this stuff in books, hearing about it in school, seeing documentaries of it on television, and of course now on YouTube, and then having talked to you guys and getting firsthand knowledge from the flight controllers who were actually there. But to actually witness this is really an amazing moment. So I think for me personally, I'm witnessing history.
Take a look at that. The rocket's gone. I wonder what happened to it. No, and of course, with technology being what it was 50 years ago, I mean, I moved into my TV room and watched it on big screen. We didn't have TVs this size 50 years ago.
Right.
And it was quite a show. And I never have been to the Cape for an actual launch. I've seen launches, but of experimental rockets, much, much, much smaller. So those people that witnessed this today got quite a show, and probably quite a shaking as well.
Yeah. Can imagine what it would be like.
The overpressure is immense.
Yeah. Imagine what it's like to actually witness a launch live and in person someday.
Well, you can hear you can see everything, and then finally the sound catches up to you, and you feel it. No, it was quite something, and I'm just startled at the way it went so beautifully. And let's hear it for NASA. They did their homework, and we might be able to anticipate future launches like this as well.
Absolutely. Well, as we wrap up here, a couple of things. I'm going to go ahead and I just want to show this slide. So this is the crew of the Artemis II mission. And I did want to mention these 4 individuals. They are risking their lives going into deep space. Anytime you go into space, it's a risky endeavor. But these are the 4 individuals who are the crew members of Artemis II. Commander Reed Wiseman to the left. He's a 27-year Navy veteran, pilot, engineer, Baltimore native. And he returned to Earth after spending 165 days on a mission in space on board the ISS, which included hundreds of scientific experiments and 2 spacewalks. Next to him is Victor Glover. He's the pilot of this mission, a California native. He spent 168 days in space on the ISS, completing 4 spacewalks and several scientific maintenance and outreach activities. To his next to him is Christina Cook, from a Grand Rapids, Michigan native, explorer, engineer, and among other things, she has been a research associate in the United States Antarctic program, which included a year-long stay in a winter over at the Edmondson Scott South Pole Station and season at Palmer Station. And she served as a member of the firefighting and search and rescue teams. And she did time on the ISS also during expeditions 59, 60, and 61, where she and her crewmates contributed to hundreds of experiments in many kinds of science and technology development. She conducted 6 spacewalks, including the first 3 all-women spacewalks, totaling 42 hours and 15 minutes, and she spent a total of 328 days in space. And then Jeremy Hansen to the far right. He is a Canadian, part of the Canadian Space Agency. He's a crew member in 2014 on board the Nemo 19, where he lived and worked on the ocean floor in the Aquarius habitat off Key Largo, Florida, for 7 days on the ocean floor, simulating deep space exploration. And in 2017, he became the first Canadian to be entrusted with leading NASA astronaut class, which means that he is in charge of training astronaut candidates from the United States and Canada. He is a rookie when it comes to space flight, so I'm sure he had quite a journey. But Godspeed to Artemis II. These are the 4 human beings that are on their way now to the moon. And you can see the spacecraft that they are occupying right now. This is a snapshot of the Orion and the service module from the European Space Agency. This picture was taken in March of 2025.
And go back to that previous slide, Orion, just comparing it. Orion is about 30% larger than the Apollo spacecraft.
30% larger. Okay. So about the size of 2 minivans put together. So,
and think about this, those seats that the crew is on, they will fold up and put away. So they're going to have much, much more room in which to move her around.
Right. So you can see the crew here inside of a mock-up of the Orion space capsule. And to your point, you can see here what it looks like inside when 2 of the seats are folded up. So to the left, 2 of the seats are deployed, and that's where Victor Glover and Reed Wiseman will be sitting as they command the module. And then the other 2 are folded up to create more living space inside the capsule. So here is basically where the craft is right now. So you can see the Orion space capsule and the service module attached to the ICPS, the interim cryogenic propulsion system.
And curiously enough, that service module was provided by the European Space Agency.
Exactly. So eventually we will have separation, and then there will be a docking or a simulation of a docking maneuver with the ISPS to test for future missions. So that's happening now. And we talked about this slide already, kind of the trajectory of the mission. So we are reaching point number 5 right now, which is a perigee raise maneuver. And then eventually when they get to step 6, they will be in a highly elliptical orbit, which will take them around the Earth for a period of about 23 and a half hours from step 6 to step 9. And again, between steps 6 and 7 is when there will be separation from the Orion and Command Module and the ICPS. And then they will do several tests for future docking maneuvers. Kind of reminds me of Gemini a little bit. And then when we get to step 9, sometime tomorrow, I would guess tomorrow late afternoon, correct me if I'm wrong, then that will be the translunar injection burn that will take them on a free return trajectory to the moon. So any comments on that step, Bill? Step number 9, when they go TLI?
No, we'll probably want to watch it just in case. I mean, if there's some anomaly that causes that to not take place, I can't imagine what it might be. This has been so perfect right now. But, you know, we might be prepared to come back on if there was something super interesting.
Yeah. So
but other than that, if there are no questions, you know, I hope we've contributed a little bit to this, but there's nothing like watching the main characters and watching that system get off the ground. No one has ever seen that SLS launch before. It's quite something.
Yep. SLS with human beings. So
that's right. We've seen something similar with the shuttle, of course, but the engines weren't. I mean, it just was a much smaller system.
Yeah. Well,
quite
it's fun.
Something.
Yeah, it really is something. It really is something. And you can see the different stages here being simulated as they get ready for a perigee raise maneuver, which will take them into a higher, more elliptical orbit. And then eventually there will be separation. So mission is underway.
I think several channels will probably be playing this over and over again tonight, because it was one of those experiences that you say, hey, I want to watch that again.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I know I'll be wanting to watch it again too. I've recorded the PBS. I've got the Weather Channel coverage as well. So coverage all over, of course, television and the internet. Again,
can you mention, Jeremy, how one might access this?
So this recording will be saved on my personal YouTube channel at Jeremy Veldman, and you just go to the live link. So if you go to YouTube/Jeremy Veldman and click on live, you'll be able to access a replay of this video. And you can also see it on my Facebook wall, again, at Jeremy Veldman. So it's being broadcast on my 2 personal channels. So just go to Jeremy Veldman, whether it's YouTube or Facebook, and you'll get access to this video. So
do you want to spell Veldman?
V like in victory, ELD like in David, MAN, Veldman, Jeremy. So kind of like Jeremy Hansen, one of the astronauts on board the
there you go,
on board the Orion space capsule. So but again, we're coming up at 6:00 p.m. Central Time. We have witnessed live a successful launch of Artemis II, the Orion space capsule, which is going to take 4 astronauts on a free return trajectory slingshot around the far side of the moon. We have not seen something like this in over 50 years, not in my lifetime. And Bill, it was, again, such an incredible thrill to be able to experience this moment with you in person. So, and again, I can't thank you enough for all the contributions that you've made over the years to the Memphis astronomical community and to local schools from elementary through college in telling and sharing your Apollo story and giving all of us a chance to really witness and experience history and enrich this particular chapter of history, human exploration to the moon. So thank you again, my brother.
Well, it's a wonderful, wonderful story, and I never get tired of telling it because it's just so fascinating. And I'm just thinking as I watch the replay on commercial TV about what was really the startling moment of this afternoon. And I think when I saw those nozzles gimbal, I knew we were close. And there was something when I watched that, I said, "This is it. We're real." Yeah. And then shortly afterward, of course, they ignited. But that was sort of the peak when I saw those engines gimbal. I said, "This is live, and it's going to happen." And it did. And so far, it's flawless. But it's been a great story. And you know, as the chapters of this story build, I hope there are people like you and Jeremy and others that can carry on and tell it, because it's a wonderful story, human exploration of space.
Well, we begin a new chapter today, and for all the young people, you think of the kids who are in elementary school or possibly junior high, or just getting an interest in science, and they're having the opportunity to see something like this. Hopefully this inspires them to continue moving forward, be the next generation of explorers, astronauts, engineers, whatever, and continue this endeavor. So it's exciting to be a part of it, and it's exciting to witness it, especially with somebody who's been there for so many years. So
do we have any questions from anyone?
Any questions or comments as we wrap up the show here? I don't think so.
Well, thank everybody for joining us, and it's been quite an afternoon, and maybe there'll be some more.
Well,
thank you, Jeremy.
So. Thanks, Bill. Thanks for taking the time, and thank you everybody for watching, and Godspeed Artemis II.